I was hesitant to make this video. For a long time I was hesitant to do so for multiple reasons. And one of those reasons is because I was afraid that the usage of any kind of discussion about sex would be something that YouTube would use as an excuse to pull the video, to take it off the website. But today I did just a quick search and I realized that that's a very common thing on YouTube. And so I realized that's not an issue. Another reason why I was very hesitant to do this, to make a video about this in particular, even though I think it's extremely important, I know that it's important very much, is because I was afraid there would be a backlash. I was afraid that people would take me out of context in order to claim nasty and untrue things about me. Something that's happened to me over and over again over the course of this life, almost 43 years now. People have done that time and again. And so over time I've been conditioned to not say anything about certain things because humans will try to make me suffer for acknowledging certain things that they're doing that are wrong. And so at first when I start talking about this, you might not realize why I was hesitant to start talking about this, but in short order you'll understand why. I thought that I might see some sort of backlash from that. So I'll start with kind of a funny story, sort of. Did you ever see the Seinfeld episode where all the friends, Jerry and George and Elaine and Kramer, they make this bet to see who can go the longest without having sex or masturbating? And this was the first time that I was introduced with this particular concept. I don't remember if it was after I'd already gone through puberty or not. I don't remember exactly when I saw this episode, but I remember thinking, just because it's in a sitcom, I just thought, like, it's a ridiculous concept that someone was just making a joke with, you know. And so I wrote it off. I never thought about it for years and years and years. But in this bet, in this episode, they have this bet to see who can go the longest, and George wins. And even after he wins, he decides to continue because he sees all of these benefits from total abstinence, even abstinence from yourself. And he gets ridiculously smart, like on a sitcom level intelligent. Like he picks up Portuguese from listening to his maid talk to people while he's there. And so, like, you know, it's this funny thing, you know, where it makes it funny to where he becomes extremely intelligent and this and that, just from, you know, total abstinence, you know. And they eventually get together and they sabotage him because they don't like him being smarter than them. And, you know, like I said, when I saw it, I just thought it was this silly thing. And I never, you know, gave any thought about it. Well, you know, years passed, and, you know, especially in retrospect, I can look back and see how this physical body has been used to commit really serious crimes of existence against me by the creator of this dimension. And that's what all of these videos are about. And so when I look back, I can see, you know, even from before the time I was in puberty, you know, like there was this constant social pressure. Even among the religious people in my area, because, like, I grew up in Mormontown, and one of the central tenets of Mormonism is that you're supposed to repopulate the earth, which is where their idea of polygamy came from. Is that it says in the Bible you're supposed to repopulate the earth, so you're supposed to have lots and lots of babies, and that's like what Mormon girls used to be, and maybe still are in some places, kind of programmed to do. Like, that's what your job is. Your job is to have babies, stay home and take care of them. And that was the whole deal. And so even before I was went through puberty, there was this social pressure about sex, and especially the people that weren't religious, it was like, well, you haven't had sex yet. Oh my God, what's wrong with you? You must be a loser, and so there was this constant just social manipulation to have sex. Well, the first time I had sex, I remember thinking, like, this is boring. This is what people are talking about, and then, I just kind of, but, it's something that you do, because otherwise, if you're a guy, then people think that you're gay, if you're not into girls or something. Especially when I joined the Army when I was 18 years old, like, that's a rowdy bunch. They talk about that all the time. And a big part of what young men do is go out looking for girls, looking to meet a group of girls, and hopefully it leads to sex, is what I would say probably most humans do, or at least that's what has been conveyed to me in this lifetime. That's definitely the dimension that I'm surrounded with. That is definitely what has been communicated to me, is that's how everyone is. And so I look back, and it wasn't until later I learned about things like putting things in people's food, about subliminal messaging, messing with your subconscious, about how all these different advertisements and this and that are specifically geared, specifically trying to manipulate your brain, your consciousness through this physical body. A really cowardly, despicable thing to do is to take advantage of somebody that's already been existentially molested, stuck to a physical body to rape, torture, mutilate, mangle, devolve, degrade, demoralize, all these different terrible things that have been done to me using this physical body. And there are all these advertisements and everything were specifically geared towards taking advantage of that, of being ultra child molesters, child molesting on top of child molesting. Many degrees of separation down the road. And so I know that this lust, this desire for sex, is something that is not something I was born with. And it's not something that I had even the first time I had sex. Or the first few times I had sex. I thought it was boring. I didn't think it was that great. But I realized that over time somebody deliberately manipulated my very existence through this physical body in order to make that come about, that lust, that desire for sex. And whatever anybody wants to claim, 100%, what the truth is, 100% of the way, is that the creator of this dimension is guilty of that. He thought of it, he brought it about, whether he used humans to bring it about, whether he used innocents to bring it about, or guilty assholes, or this or that or the other, doesn't matter. He definitely deliberately did this. The person who created this dimension full of child molesters and rapists and homicidal maniacs and horrible, terrible genocide, horrible, all of this terrible stuff, part of what that person has done is also this lust, this desire to have sex, this desire to engage in this. Well, fast forward a few years, after this, you could call it natural, as in having to do with nature, having to do with this particular dimension, which is a terrible dimension. So for me, the term natural, if you look at what it actually means, it's actually a really bad thing. This nature, this ecology, the way that this existence is wrongful. It's existential crime. It's predation. It's plundering people's existences. And I've been stuck in here by somebody else with no right to exist. Who knew that this was predation upon my very existence? And sex was part of the way in which that took place. Now, fast forward a few years after this development took place, and I started getting into Eastern religion. And I started studying, I went to India and did all that stuff. I have a video about religions and the conclusions that I've reached and everything through studying and experiencing different things through these religions. And one of the things that Eastern religion talks about, and all religions have some parts and pieces that are attractive to people, that are the truth, that cause people to want to be part of it. You know what I mean? And one of the things about Eastern religion that I think it's obviously very true. I didn't realize it, for a long time because I ignored these different things, But the truth is that Eastern religion talks about this truth that, but they don't actually say it directly, I should mention. They say basically that you should have total abstinence even from yourself. You should retain that, and that eventually the energy will raise up and eventually you'll become enlightened, is what they claim. Okay? And they say that, this world will sabotage you in that regard, and that girls will become interested in you, and that starts to build up within you, and that they'll do what they can to drain you of that energy and everything. And so that's part, they call it brahmacharya. That's part of brahmacharya is just building up that energy, not releasing it, and using that, for yourself, Well, I went through more and more experiences, and over the course of almost 43 years, I've experienced sex from lots of different women, and when I started practicing brahmacharya, I started to realize that that's true what they say about brahmacharya, but it's not true enough. It's not the whole truth. The whole truth is something more important. When I practiced brahmacharya, and then I would masturbate and release that energy, what I realized is that I didn't just lose energy. I didn't just feel tired and that was it. I lost intelligence. I lost consciousness itself, awareness. I lost that which makes you vibrant, which has nothing to do with intelligence. Something totally different, right? It's a different characteristic. That which could be felt as a presence. That which has energy, not just energy itself, that which has energy and that which has consciousness. That's what was taken from me through orgasm, through this physical body, this disgusting hairless monkey body that I'm stuck in, causes this drainage of something that has the most vital and important things in my existence. And the more I think about it, the more that I've realized this, especially the last 9.5 years, when I became very aware of the fact that there is somebody using this dimension to commit crimes of existence and creation. That's a fact. The person who created this dimension 100% has no right to exist. He knows it. He knows he's committing crimes of existence and creation. He knows that he's going to be existentially raped and tortured. He knows that the words rape and torture in that regard are just human constructs that are far, far, far nicer than what will actually be done. The kind of existential torture that will be forced upon anyone who preys upon other people's existences like this are horrific and terrible. The most horrific things there could be, with no possibility you could ever cope with, deal with, ignore, become acclimated to any of this. And what I've realized the last 9.5 years is that which was taken from me, which has vibrance, which has charisma, which has presence, which has consciousness. And I remember also that I used to be a greater entity. And that which was taken from me was nothing short of my soul itself. This is the worst kind of crime that exists. And this is one of the methods in which that's taking that soul substance from me, probably using it to cover it up, butchering me out of my own existence and then using my own existence to cover up these existential crimes. Because obviously, unless you are outrageously retarded, you understand that these kind of crimes, those that I've mentioned over and over again in these videos, you understand that the consequences for that are worse than anything could be. And you will never walk away. You'll never walk away tougher. You'll never walk away weaker. You'll be spitted on an electrified pike. You'll be tortured in a way that makes your entire lineage of creation wish you had never existed forever. No matter what happens to anyone, anywhere, ever again. Anyone genuinely responsible for these crimes, for theft of soul, for all these fucked up, terrible things that have been done to me by the person running this dimension in an attempt to cover up these crimes committed against me. It takes almost zero intelligence to understand that the consequences for that are the worst existential torture that exists. Literally. The absolute most horrible and terrible thing that anyone can possibly force upon you for committing these crimes isn't enough. It'll have to be done maybe forever. It'll be done long after there's any kind of necessity long after everyone in every lineage of creation involved in this wishes that no one who'd ever brought it about had ever existed. After that, more than that, it's infinite and eternal, these existential crimes. And furthermore, here's another thing to take into consideration. Taking part of somebody's existence away from them is you committing a crime of creation. Because my existence, in its form it was created in, is whole and complete. It's not like a body where your foot doesn't think, or your brain doesn't move. Whole and complete in every dimension, undivided, where it exists in the form that it should exist. And so even if you some way use different methods to separate these things, like a physical body, specializing in certain things, you have committed crimes of creation. You have taken something with consciousness, butchered it off into a separate entity, and even if it doesn't have the consciousness to suffer and to tell you no, that is a horrific and terrible crime of existence and creation. It's a crime that your whole lineage of creation will be worse than murdered for. Those are the crimes that are being committed by the people committing these crimes and by the entire lineage of creation responsible for them. That's a fact. These crimes have been committed against me. They continue to be committed against me. And when I thought about sex itself, it is, the more I thought about it, the more it's extremely obvious. It's extremely obvious that this is an additional way of draining me. Anytime that my energy gets higher, there's this ridiculous urge violating me from the inside to go release my guts, spill them onto the ground. And when I start to get vibrant, when I start to build this up, girls start paying attention to me. And they start moving in. Now, one of the things that I talked about in another video about social manipulations is that I couldn't understand certain manipulations that were forced upon me. Okay? One of those is this constant thing I've been told ever since I was a kid. Oh, as you don't do anything mean to a woman. There's no reason to ever hit a woman. You need to protect women. Men are there to protect women. That's what you're there for. You're there to protect them. Anybody who does anything bad to a woman is terrible. You should fight them. You should hurt them. You should do terrible things to them. As if women have never done anything that deserves a beatdown. If men have done stuff that deserve a beatdown, then women have too. And the very concept behind this, totally, you need to protect women at all costs, but men, fuck them. It's, no, that's not right. There's something wrong with that. And one of the things that didn't make sense to me is that I never saw any of that. I never saw this misogyny. I never saw women suffering. If anything, I've seen more women abuse men in public than I have the other way around, by far. Hugely by far, by orders of magnitude, probably. And so that was one thing that didn't make sense to me. And also another thing that didn't make, also along those lines, the fact that for the last, 30 years, 40 years, more, they've been talking about how, women only make 70 cents on the dollar compared to men. And it's this constant, I spoke about this in the other video, it doesn't make any sense. For 40 years that's been happening. If you take statistics, if you find out actual numbers and you find out how much people are making, because the only way that you can come up with this number is if you go and gather data. And you find out who is actually making how much money. You don't get some shaman to gut a chicken and poke at its innards to divine these numbers out of thin air, and you just have no idea who's actually making that money and no idea who's actually paying them that money. If you have that information, then you already know who's committing the crimes, and you have irrefutable proof. And so for 40 fucking years, the only thing that the Justice Department did was just tell people about it. Just like, yeah, we have all this information. We know exactly who's doing it, and you should treat women better. Look what they're, we're not doing anything about it. Oh my God, you guys need to. And so it's this manipulation. It's this thing that doesn't make any sense at all. To where I said this in the last video. If it was a real problem, then the headline in the newspaper would read, Justice Department finds inequality. Arrests made. Problem solved. That's it. It would be done. But it's not. It's just harping. It's this constant assertion that, these women are poor and picked on, and we need to protect them, and no matter what they do, there's no reason to carry out any consequences against any of them. And it's this constant mental manipulation. It's a lie. That's just a fact. Okay. And another thing that I saw that I didn't really understand was how gay people, in particular gay men, were also painted into this position to where they were poor and picked on and wrongly persecuted, and it's just because of who they love, and this and that. And I always thought it was weird because I never saw that. I saw people make jokes. I got teased relentlessly, especially in the Army. That's how those assholes are. Tease everyone about being gay all the time. And so, but I never actually saw like some gay people getting beaten up because they're gay. I never saw that. I never witnessed anything like that. Never. And so it's this weird dichotomy of what is presented as what the truth is socially and what your actual experience is. And so when I realized that this sexual intercourse was actually taking something from me, perhaps soul substance itself is what it looks like, it's what it feels like, it's what it is in effect. It takes vibrance from you, from me. It takes intelligence from me. It takes strength from me. It takes energy from me. It takes my actual soul substance from me. And what makes a female female, mechanically speaking? A vagina. That's biologically, mechanically, what dictates whether something is female or not is a vagina. And what is a vagina? Well, it's a slimy, smelly, soul-sucking disease vector hole in the ground. A negative sum. Something that takes something vital from somebody else, traps it, keeps it in there, grows it, and then produces another entity with consciousness that is dumber, that has less intelligence. And gay people who don't have the ability to create children are still taking that substance. And so the creator of this dimension is obviously a despicable coward. He's a child molester. He's every single terrible thing in this dimension. That's a fact. He's responsible for everything in this dimension. Also a fact. That's how it is. Whether anybody likes it or not. He's guilty of every single crime committed in this dimension. For certain. No two ways about it. 100%. And from the time I was little, I was trained that it was a terrible thing to not like these things, these parasites. These things that prey upon people's existences, that steal the most vital thing from them and commit horrific crimes of creation therethrough. Can you imagine how terrible it would be to be created into a child, defenseless, ripped out of your fucking soul, forced to exist in some smelly piece of shit human body, abused and everything else? And in this dimension run by this child molester, who is doing all of this deliberately, he's persecuted anyone and everyone who points out the fact that what they're doing, whether that's a good person inside of that female body or that homosexual male body, whether or not that's a good person inside of it, what they're doing is horrifically wrong. The crimes of existence and creation. They're absolutely positively committing some of the worst crimes that exist in a disgusting way. That's a fact. I've given a lot of thought to what this situation really is. I've been retired for 15 years. And this has been the main focus of my existence, is existence itself, for 15 years. Every day, all day. A lot of times all night. I think about almost nothing else. And I've seen human beings do just things that I just can't believe anyone with any intelligence would do. Not necessarily because they're stupid outright, but because they're stupid in their consequences. Now, I don't mean just drinking or smoking weed or this or that or the other. Okay? I mean, look at the people perverting entire justice systems. That's somebody that has intelligence and is choosing to pervert justice in the pursuit of crimes of existence and creation. Those are the stupidest